Craig, thanks for being on, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, my pleasure, Kirk. I appreciate what you do for dentistry and always fun talking to you. So this is good to be here. I'm
Yeah, it's
excited.
good. He's like, before we hit the go button, be a little contentious with me. Come on, let's create some
Well,
conflict.
I just want you to be real. That's all. I just like real.
We
And if
will be.
real means you're going to want to spar with me a little bit, I'm cool with that.
That's
But
okay. And
I'm
then he,
happy we're talking about I'm happy we're talking about this today though.
I am too. And he also asked me, like, is it okay if we swear? Do you swear on your podcast? I'm like, yeah, I swear a little bit, but like, here's the thing. Let's start here because I always enjoy you. I listen to your podcast. It's awesome. I'm going to encourage you if you're a listener, you gotta listen to his podcast too. But if somebody's listening and they don't know who Craig Spodak is, let's start there. Who are you? Like, tell me what you do. Where do you practice? What are you up to?
So I'm a third generation dentist. I practice in Delray Beach, Florida. We practice in one single location. It's 13,000 square feet, 18 operatories, soon to be 25. Multidisciplinary facility, 10 doctors, 50 support team. I got my ass kicked a ton. I learned a lot. I failed forward. I became successful despite myself and started a podcast, wrote a book. My co-founder and partner, Peter Bolden, practices in Atlanta. We wrote a book, became a bestseller on Amazon, podcast, a whole bunch of downloads, surprisingly, which is incredible because I think no one's actually listening to me. I'm just talking to empty space. Yeah, married for 14 years, got 2 kids. I like a lot of different things. I'm now in the beef business, Kirk. I don't
What?
know if you knew that, but
What is the
I
beef?
have a cattle ranch and I'm selling beef.
Come on.
So yeah, no joke.
Like,
Yeah.
what does that
So
mean? I don't know what that means. Explain what that
well
means.
okay. So like, a hamburger, right?
Right.
That's beef.
I
So
know that.
imagine, okay. I just didn't know where I had to meet you.
Well, you know me well enough. We got to start at square one. Okay, so I'm good with
Okay.
that. Let's go to square two.
Okay. So I don't want to take up too much time on this, so I'll make it a very short story. So, my buddy, I grew up in Florida, and my father's like a semi-professional skeet shooter. He shoots those clay targets. He shoots 22,000 shells per year. So he took me, skeet shooting when I was a kid, and we used to go bird hunting. And I fell in love with like the center Florida wilderness, which is for the coastal people. They don't understand that there's a whole separate portion of Florida out there. So fast forward, I did a land lease of 16,000 acres with a couple buddies of mine. And I just noticed my kids loved it and I loved it. No one's on their iPad. So I dipped my toe in the water, bought a ranch, piece of land. It came with cows because there's a tax incentivization.
Wow.
Started learning about the cows and my ranch hand and said, maybe we could do this. And lo and behold, a ranch called Savin Ranch was born. Savin is Savin, named for my kids, Sage and Gavin. Fun fact.
Awesome. Cool. And you enjoy it?
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, why
Yeah.
not? I just enjoy being a novice, and there's so many areas of my life that I've become a little less novice in. So now I go out here and I'm an idiot. So I like being an idiot again. I
Yeah.
talk to the ranchers out there like, you don't see that? You don't know how to do that? You don't know what like how do you survive? I'm like, well, I don't live here. I
Yeah.
live in the coast. There's Starbucks. I can handle my day
Yeah.
without having to know that that's a poisonous snake or that cow needs this type of vitamin or this type of a vaccine or whatever. So it's cool.
Yeah. I know you well enough that you're not an idiot at all. You're actually a pretty brilliant, brilliant guy. And I love the topics that we always cover. And one of the podcasts, actually one of my favorite that we've ever done was on the whole culture thing. Like I really think you're one of the few people that's got a great thumb on what that really means, how to do it. And we're going to come back to that one because I mean, 10 doctors. I think you've learned a few things to be able to keep
Oh
and
yeah.
grow doctors. And go ahead. What were you
Oh,
gonna say?
there's the funny side to that, by the way, Kirk. The funny side to that, and this is something I'm not proud of, but guess how many associate doctors I've had in my 24-year career? The graveyard, if you will, of failed associateships.
Oh my gosh. I would think
Well,
it
I mean, they're all not failed. Some had to move and some went on their own, but over 20.
over
Over
20.
20.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like when I say failing my way forward, it's like I had to learn the hard way how to make these things work, and I just had such either stupidity or tenacity or maybe a little bit of both to just keep running into the same brick wall over and over until I'm like, I don't have to do this anymore. I can do it this way. So,
Yeah.
that's what I'm proud about Bulletproof because there's a lot of people out there that teach dentists and um, Some have actually done it and some haven't. I don't want to take anything away from the ones that haven't, because like you could be an NFL coach and not play as good as the NFL player. So I
Right.
think you can provide great coaching and insight even if you don't play the game. But I do think there's a rare grit that if you've actually done it and gone through the pain, you get a little bit more street cred in my own mind.
For sure. For sure. And I would say over 20 and you kept 10, I mean, your percentages are pretty high compared to
Yeah, and
what
that's
I've
true.
heard, you know, so and
Yeah,
what I've
yeah,
seen.
yeah.
I mean, I have some docs that have had 9 and they haven't been able to keep 1. So, you
Yeah.
know, so I think you gotta
We're
try.
actually 12 now, actually. So yeah, the
Okay.
percentage is good. It's fine. I mean, but life happens. You meet
Right.
someone, you love working with them, and they move to Chicago because they get married. Or one of my doctors, Dr. Alfredo, got a great opportunity in Miami, left, and I never burn a bridge. And 2 years
Right.
later, he's like, that great opportunity was not a great opportunity. I want to come back and I want to become a partner. And he came on back. So, but so there's always, life happens and it's never going to go to plan.
Right. So you guys gotta listen to this. This is gonna be good stuff. So Craig, I want you to go into the team never sell concept. Let's talk about what it is and the why before we get into the how. What is it?
So right now, we're all aware of this pervasive narrative of this DSO bubble is going to burst, money is flooding in, but it's going to dry up. And you don't want to be the last guy standing, not cashing in on the value of your practice. So there's a lot of dental FOMO out there. And I think that the narrative is strong and and widely held by different parties, whether those be different portions of the industry as a force to push us to consolidate. And I think it's fine if that's what you want to do because you want to exit your career, you want to exit dentistry. But I think there's a lot of people that are caught in the crosshairs of this narrative that just need to work on their businesses a little bit and make the business work for them. And they just don't know how to do that. So they pull the effort card and wind up selling. And I am a big proponent of the team never sell concept where you learn how to make your business work for you, that you're not a prisoner of your business, that it can actually run like a business if you want
Mhm.
that to be the case, and that you would then never want to sell.
Yeah.
So I'm a guy who many times picked up the phone and called Acme DSO and said, guys, it's time. I just can't handle it anymore. I'm like, okay, here it is. And like the 11th hour, I'm like, oh, it's not the right
Right.
time. No, I can do this. I can do this. And then 2 or 3 years later, I got a little better and then called them again. And if I could look back in the last, 10 or 15 years of practice ownership, it was nice to know that you're wanted. There's nice to know that there's intrinsic value of your practice, but at the same time, when you sell your business, you have to take that money and invest in another business. So you never really exit business, you just exit yours and then go put the money somewhere else. And one thing that we as dentists that are operators know, we know our dental businesses.
Right.
So when you sell and you take that money and dump it in a mutual fund, I guarantee you don't know as much about that mutual fund as you do in your own practice. So the team never sell approach is to get the business working and then make sure it provides the cash flow that a business of that character deserves, and then ride off with it.
Right. So a couple things I want to throw into the conversation, and you can say true or false. I've heard this so many times in 26 years. Dentists are more motivated by fear of loss than hope of gain. And that's the one thing I have a problem with in dentistry is that everyone, when it comes to a narrative or a sale, dentists will move quick on a loss more than they will the hope of gain. True or false?
Absolutely true, in my opinion, in my experience.
And so fear is a great selling point in dentistry. You know, and I see this. I see exactly what you're talking about. Now, one more thing I'll throw at you, because you get these conversations all the time. I'll go to a big conference, and a dentist will come up to me and go, "You know what? This is hard." And I heard this commercial. Do you not like being a dentist? Would you like to go back to just treating patients again? We'll sell your business to us, and we will own 51% or 90% of your business, and you can just enjoy your life today. I tell the dentist, I'm like, but then I own your ass when I buy your business. True or false, you know?
Well, I'll give a partial truth to that. Listen, everybody's situation is unique, and there are people that at the right time and the right place, it might not be a bad idea to transact their business.
True.
What I'm fearful of is that the message is so pervasive and the net is cast so broadly it's catching everybody. So, whether 10% of the population needs to hear that, hey, sell now, or 20% or 5%, it's not 99%, is all I'm saying.
Right.
And I think coming back to your first point that dentists are risk averse, I think it's a selection bias because you don't become a dentist because you're ready to be an entrepreneur. An
Right.
entrepreneur, I've had portions of my life that are entrepreneurial as you have as well. It's literally scary as shit. It's like,
It
am I
is.
going to make it? And I think part of the reason why we all became dentists, number one, we want to help people. And number two, we're like, that's pretty recession proof. It's pretty risk averse. So by nature, the act of becoming a dentist puts you in a small category of people who don't like to take chances.
Right.
So that's why it's a powerful narrative between like, hey, Dr. Jones, it's going to dry up. You're going to be totally like high and dry. So it catches us in a very opportunistic way. And I'm really happy we're talking about it today,
Yeah.
and that your listeners and my listeners are going to hear this.
Yeah. So I have a lot of young listeners. So Craig, I'm going to pretend to be a 31-year-old dentist. I'm thinking about doing this. Like, mentor me in this short few minutes. Like, what were some of the questions you'd ask me? Like, Craig, give me some advice if I'm listening. What would be your advice?
Oh yeah, that's very simple because I do this all the time in the bulletproof practice ecosystem. So the first thing is there's another narrative, and we won't really go deep into it, but it's like there's a lot of what you should do in dentistry. There's a million coaches that all tell you that you should do these 4 easy steps. Dentistry is beautiful in that it can provide exactly what you want. So I know each practice I ever visit is like a complete snowflake. They're totally, totally different. And the way they maximize for either profitability, experience, legacy, charity, they all have their own vibe, or at least they should have something they stand for beyond just, fixing the teeth. So the first thing I'd say to the 31-year-old is, what do you really want from your life? Because dentistry can provide that for you. You might just want to be a softball coach and do the dentistry, 3 days a week for 5 hours. Or you may be an entrepreneur and want to scale a business, or you may practice in a rural area and want to take care of the farmers. And 2 of your days are philanthropic and 3 of the days are for profit. But you have to build what suits you. So the first thing is something that no one ever wants to do. Yeah, and you have to do this if you're going to be fulfilled and successful in your life. You have to sit down and get intentional on what your future life is going to look like. So 31-year-old dentist, he or she, sit down, describe exactly what your future practice looks like. It's not like this hopium bullshit thing where you try to come up with all this crazy stuff, but start the writing exercise. And as you write it, you'll have like an authenticity filter. So as you write something that doesn't resonate, you'll erase it, but it'll be a cathartic and constructive process where you can describe your future life. 3 ops, 5 ops, 500 grand of production, 1.5 of production. Get it all out. And then from there, that's when I would start advising you, because anything less than that or without that step, I'm telling you what I would do. And when I meet my bulletproof dental people, they say, I want what you have. Well, why? Well, I want to make money when I'm not there. And then they come visit my practice like, oh, damn, I wouldn't want anything like this. Or I see their practices and they say, what do you think? And I'm like, well, all due respect, Dr. Jones, if I had your practice, I would hate it. It's not me. So you're successful in life when you know what you want and you get what you want, but you decided what you wanted and you put some time into it. Because the worst thing is to get what you want and realize you never really wanted it. That's where you have no fulfillment and you're really miserable.
Right. Two things. I love this. Okay. Two things. Okay. But Craig, I'm going to totally do this exercise. I'm 31. But, but, but you don't know my area. You don't know how much
Yeah.
competition. And I call those self-limiting beliefs. And the truth of it is they do get in the way when you haven't really been, and they stop you. You think, oh, I could never do more fee for service in my area. No one wants to pay for it. Help me through what those beliefs do. And how do I get through those?
Well, so that's me. We're talking about human psychology, and Kirk, you and I are humans, and we are our own worst enemies. It's the dialogue that we have, the constant dialogue, what we whisper to ourselves. It's the most destructive force in our lives. So yes, you want to point externally that my community doesn't have this, or I can't do that, but that's just the self-limiting beliefs are apparent for all of us, and we all have our own issues. And as one area of self-limiting belief sheds off, another one comes up. But I've met those dentists who I've lectured for companies, and I've literally had people raise their hand And I was in different cities that I didn't even know very much on, but I drove to the hotel and I drove past, car dealerships, and I would go into the lecture that evening and they'd say, well, you don't know our area. They can afford this or that. Well, doctor, how far do you practice from this one hotel? Well, right down the street. I'm like, well, there's a Mercedes-Benz dealership right there. Do you think Mercedes would build a brand new dealership in an area that couldn't afford to have cars like that? But if you believe that your area is not going to support the practice and you tell yourself, and more importantly, you tell your team that, you will never be able to do it because you are the leader, and the psychology and skill set of the leader makes everything impossible or possible.
Right.
So, if not, what I would say to those people, if not for you, for them, we all create greater leverage for people that we care about than for our own selves. We all care to take care of those. I'm sorry, let me say that again. We all want to take care of other people sometimes more than we take care of ourselves. So as you, the leader of the business, the doctor in the practice, if not for you, and give your team the power to believe that it's possible, because if the psychology of the leader is not a fit for growth, you will never grow.
Yeah. I,
So
I
trying to
love
create
that.
some leverage there.
Yeah, you struck a nerve on something. I want you to go back to this too. I hear this one all the time. But Dr. Spodak, I wanna make money while I'm not there. I don't wanna be tied to the practice. So I wanna grow this big
Yeah.
thing, and my patients need coverage. And so I want you to speak to what that really what's behind that, and what's the
Well,
truth
you
about it?
brought up, sorry, Kirk, go ahead. What's the true?
What's the truth about it?
Well, so you brought up two distinct points. So the guy who says, I feel bad because I don't make money, I don't really have a business, I'm just a dentist, I have a job, or I'm just an associate, and I hate those, I'm just the whatever. I just have one office, I'm a solo dentist. Because at the end of the day, LeBron, it has a job, but it's a really, really high paying job, as your job is as a dentist would be. So, there's two distinct things. There are people who are artists, there's people who are manager leaders, there's people who are entrepreneurs. There's distinctions that people need to figure out what who they really are. And I love the artist. My dad and my grandfather, solo practitioners, artists, refine their craft. But oftentimes my dad would look at the practice we built now and say, "Now you were so smart, you did this or that." I'm like, "Dad, it's just who I am. We're built different." I had it in me to say that I wanted to build something bigger. But when I got into this, I made the decision that if I was to make less money, but grow a larger business, would I want that? And the answer for me was definitively yes. So it wasn't about the money. It was about building something that potentially revolutionize dentistry and create a different approach. But for those that feel bad that they have a job and they're strapped to the practice, don't. You're an extremely highly paid person. It's what, you're not laying bricks, you're not tiling bathrooms. It's a great profession, and a lot of us can make a lot of money in a very little amount of time. So I think that's the first part. But then the other part you said was where they said they want
Well,
to grow,
yeah, a
they
lot
want to
of
make money.
times I mean, let's just call it out. Big is sexy. It'll always be sexy. You'll always see, oh, my friend has 2 CBCTs. He's got this big practice. He's got a third one, and he's got this vacation home and all these other things. It's okay to think this because you look around, you believe this. If I grow it to something bigger, that's going to give me more time, And so I think you're onto something brilliant. But most people think conventionally, the bigger I make this, the more I'm going to be able to do what I want to do and get back from this. And
Mm,
so I'm a huge fan of what you just said. Whatever you want to create, let's create it. But at the end of the day, you got to enjoy going to work. Go, this is me. I'm pretty sure I
right.
wouldn't want your operation. You're just built for that. I'm not. And so
Yeah.
I think bigger. Maybe I'm trying to say bigger isn't always better. Speak to that.
Well, it's just whatever suits you.
Right.
Like, I don't have to be in the office today. There's no other reason that I need to be in my office today. I could handle everything from outside my office, but I chose to be here because I love it. I
Right.
built something that I love. I'm an extrovert. Talking to different people. I'm engaging with them. But if you're an introvert and you want to build something like this, and if you don't put some really good operators in place, it's going to be really hard on you. So I think it's like that the first quote of the Stoics, know thyself.
Right.
And I think the second quote, don't bullshit yourself. I don't know which Stoic said that, but That's one of the things. You catch this idea, you hijack someone else's vision. I want what Dr. Jones did. I'm going to do that. And by the way, I have the privilege, in Bulletproof, we've worked with 125 different mastermind clients where we dive deep into their practice over the last 4 years, and we look at their P&Ls. And I see some of these people who outwardly are, amazingly successful people. And I look at their P&L, I dissect everything, and I'm like, holy smokes, you make 18% of your collections. You'd be better financially working with Dr. Jones down the street and getting 30% of your collections and doing what you do. And they say, well, that's fine with me because I love my business and I love doing this. But there's others that are like that. They had no idea. They never did the numbers to realize that their actual entrepreneurial profit for owning the business is negative. It costs them to own a business.
Yeah,
Hugely eye-opening.
it is.
And it shouldn't make you feel one way or another. It's just the numbers will show you what you really have. I was that guy. I had a multi-million dollar top line at one point, and a bottom line that was so anemic that I could have literally just gone over to the local DSO and say, "Give me 30% of what I produce," and I would have made more money than having that $8 million top line business.
Wow.
That's a big kick in the butt.
It is. It is. Now, walk us through the never sell concept. Give us the highlights or the points. What does it look like? Tell me what the framework's all about.
So at a 30,000-foot level, people sell a business that is either not performing or they don't like. And then when you have a business that you like and is not performing, you don't want to sell it and everybody wants to buy it. So if you are this person, you're listening to this and saying, I've pretty much decided I want to sell, but you're probably thinking, I got to get my business fit to sell. I want to get it better. I want to refine the process to then sell it. My suggestion is go through the training to get it to work for you and then reevaluate it. Because once you turn it passive, and I think all businesses, if left long enough with proper care and stewardship, should turn into a passive investment. That's just the natural progression. Either it fails or it scales and becomes passive. So my hope for everybody is if that's what they want to do, that they can go through the steps, the understanding of primarily your service offering, your culture, your marketing, your innovation, your succession plan, appointing great people within your team to take on the responsibilities that you're doing right now, and really growing your team and having them take on more and see what can come of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now give us the other side of it. So you grow it to become a and I completely agree. And I love how you characterize both of them. So let's walk through 30 years of doing this. So if I do this for 30 years, what can I expect once I get close to 55 or 60? And how old are you? You're my age,
I'm
right?
51.
So you're a little bit younger than me. And you know how you don't have the energy that you used to. Your interests change a little bit. Your perspective's a little bit bigger. What's it look like when I never sell? I mean, who will? But Craig, you don't understand. All this, I get offers to sell my practice all the time. This is going to go away. We pointed to this earlier. So,
Well, let's just talk about this is going to go away. So, studies that I've read point to as things consolidate, like using dermatology and veterinary medicine as corollaries, because they're largely a lot more consolidated. More of them belong to organized groups than in dentistry. So, what I've heard is that as consolidation continues, multiples go up because there's less. You're the last girl at the dance to dance with. I mean, at a certain point, it's a supply and demand concept. So I think valuations will continue to go up and down based on the price of debt. But I don't believe in this FOMO. You're going to be left high and dry and never have any options.
right.
But let's face it, if you have a solo practice and you are the business, a DSO or a company that's going to be buying you is going to be buying you and paying you with your own money. So you don't get to be Dr. Kirk and show up one day, get a big fat check, and walk out a year from now.
Right.
If you do, they're going to have a replacement strategy, and there's going to be clawbacks. So if you don't produce adequately, you get the money clawed back. So for those guys, it might even be compelling for them to work for 4 or 5 years and then just throw the damn thing away. Because when you look at the money that they're going to give you and then the taxable portion of it, and all the other components of it, it might not be as sexy as the letter of intent that slides across the table looks.
Right.
But if you're a team never sell person and your business is passive and you enjoy it, that's the most important thing. Because I think people work so hard in dentistry for so long that they can't bear the thought of another day, another month, or another year of doing it. If you get to that point, if you're at that point right now, I would just suggest you take off a couple weeks. Your practice will survive. Never make a long-term decision on an emotional feeling at momentary emotional feeling. And I see a lot of people do that. So what I would recommend is just get some clarity, take some time off. I know you think you can't, but it will be okay. I'd rather you do that than flick the switch and sell when you didn't really want to. But for those that have a business that exists and it gives them some purpose and fulfillment, I don't see the need to ever sell it so long as the return on your investment of owning the business is as good as what it would be in the market. And what do I mean by that? If your business is worth $1 million and you're making at least whatever you want to call it, 5, 6, 8, 10% on that money, then why sell it? Because
Right.
if you sold it at $1 million business, you're going to get hit with taxes. You're going to put it in the market and be lucky to get 5%. So you got to think about your asset.
Right.
And I know what the DSO people will say, well, you got to take some chips off the table. You got to diversify. All your eggs are in one basket. What if a tornado hits your building? That happens, but there's insurance for that. And you can also, if you're young enough and you're early in your career, you can start building those money machines. So you can take the money that's earned with dentistry and start buying, assets, real estate, commercial real estate, stocks. And by the way, the associates have it even better because they don't have all the capital tied up in a practice. If you're an associate, you can actually be a business owner. You can just own other portions of businesses, whether that be those things that I just mentioned.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, this isn't my domain. I'm getting outside of my lanes here, and I hear about them, but the earnout, what are you hearing on the street? I hear people, oh, I sold, but you don't understand. The earnout on the other side can be less desirable. Tell us what's the
Well,
current landscape on that.
so I think what you're saying by earn out, like, putting the roll forward or the claw back, because there's a roll forward where you might be entitled to roll your money into the new company that's being organized, right?
Right.
Which one are you speaking of?
I'm speaking of both actually, and I'm also talking about the contract that you sign that says you have to work here for X amount of years. Now you hear all this stuff. And again, I get all this stuff in different ears, but I'd love to hear what you're hearing for our listeners.
Well, I mean, we're cutting with broad brushstrokes here because there are people that have family emergencies. They hurt their hand,
Right.
their spouse has a terminal disease. I mean, there are nuances to this conversation, but let's just pick a person. Let's pick an able 45, 55-year-old guy who's a guy or gal who's a solo practitioner doing $1 million a year. What the DSO will, no one's gonna, I mean, I shouldn't say no one because I'm sure there's somebody out there, but there's there's been enough DSO transactions where they've seen the pitfalls where people get all their money and be like, okay, I'm not going to show up the next day. So there is a holdback. So there's typically 60 to 80% upfront and the rest is in a holdback. And the problem with the holdback is some DSOs may actually tell you, we're going to fire Sally because we have a Sally in our main office in, Washington, D.C. Well, I'm in Florida. Yeah, but we have a Sally. But Sally has a lot of brand equity in relationship with the patients. And when you fire Sally, the hygienist is upset. And by the way, it's, no longer this composite, it's this composite, no longer this lab, it's no longer this clear aligner, it's that. So in many ways, you're handcuffed to be able to do the clinical dentistry and have the team around you that you always had. So if they trim cost to benefit their P&L, they may affect your ability to produce. And guess what? You'll be responsible for that. So there's a clawback. So what does that mean? It literally means that the money that they were given, there's provisions that they can claw it back and ask for it back. Very normal, usual and customary, just something for you to know about. And that's usually not in the LOI. And the next thing we talked about is the second bite of the apple, which could be very appealing. And, you know, for those that are listening, I've been down this road many times and been at the altar and actually thought I was going to do it. And at the 11th hour, it just felt wrong. And the original sales pitch, and then when I got really into it, started not line up. And I got a dose of reality, and thank God I didn't do it. But there are opportunities for those that want to do it to actually put their money and roll it forward into the private equity company and get a return on that. And sometimes the 20% roll forward could actually be just as valuable as the 80% you got up front.
Right.
But I mean, market conditions, and you got to believe in that DSO and what they're doing. And I just think, if I could reiterate, I think that there needs to be more optionality and more dialogue for it. This is not your only choice, and I'm really proud of what you're doing, Kirk, helping dentists, and what Bulletproof is doing, helping the business practices of dentists. Because if you just got a little bit more training, and we got none, literally not a minute when I went to school, a business training. If you got some degree of training, you could navigate through this. It's
Yeah.
like going into tennis and you've never had one tennis lesson.
Yeah. So I love what you're saying. And I'm going to throw one more thing at you, and I want you to comment on this. The elephant in the room that no one ever talks about is dentistry is an incredible profession. It's an incredibly noble industry, and it isn't bleak ahead. It's only huge ahead. Half of the public goes to the dentist. This is the United States. That's another thing to remember. Every economist agrees that the biggest problem in our country isn't healthcare and the economy, it's the aging population. We have so many people. Right now in Japan, adult diapers are outselling children's diapers. They set micro trends for us. There's going to be so many people, Craig. We don't have enough dentists. So to think, oh, there's not going to be enough dentistry to do and there's too many, like, I think the important thing to understand is there's a huge future ahead for dentists and the power of choice. Going back to what you said, the power of choice is one of my favorite things as an entrepreneur. You're choosing to come in today. You can choose what procedures. As the industry changes, you can choose. I want you to speak to any of that.
Yeah, so I appreciate you saying that. Dentistry is a beautiful profession. It can be exactly what you want it to be. If you're not stuck. If you hate your practice right now and you hate everything what you've chosen, you listen to some people and you got in a place where you don't like, don't worry. There's options for you. You can completely pivot your practice. You could be doing patchwork dentistry and go to Cois or Spear, any of those great organizations, and start doing FMRs and comprehensive dentistry. You could be doing comprehensive dentistry, but it hurts your back and you want to just do clear aligners. You can get an associate and give that to them. There's so many choices. When I talk to burnt out dentists, and I talk to them all the time, they're so stuck with those blinders on. It's just, I was that guy too. And as soon as you start talking about this, like, you're right, you're right. And you see this weight lifting off of them, like, oh my God, it's not that hard. But we're stuck, in the myopic perspective of dentistry. We're literally life under loops. I'm going to write a book called Life Under Loops, because in dentistry, your success and failure lies in the micron. So you treat your life in the micron, you can't see the macro. So it's incumbent upon guys like you and me to keep beating on this drum. Dentistry is golden. It's a beautiful profession. You can pivot, you can reinvest, you can reinvent rather, or you can actually just take your practice and sell it and move to wherever you want.
Right.
Anywhere you want in the United States that you love, you can go there and be okay. If you're a restaurateur and you fail, you're in deep doo-doo. Like, you're
Yeah.
not going to, as a dentist, if you the license in good standing and a good skill set, pick any spot in the country that you want to live, and you can get a job as an associate. And maybe the pressure of owning a practice is not for you, and you realize that as well. And you're like, screw it. I just want to show up and do the dentistry. There's a lot of guys like me out there that would love to hire a seasoned dentist that's a good person and does good dentistry. There's so much optionality, and we just fail to recognize it. And that's the big problem. That's why we're leading in divorce and drug abuse and all this stuff. We're leading in those categories because we don't understand what's really available to us.
Yeah. I want you to go back to the burnout thing. I get that one all the time, every week. What's this? We're not mental health experts. Give me your hypothesis on burnout right now in dentistry.
So I think I'm happy we're talking about this because it's very real. And I have a lot of people that reach out to me, once a week, twice a month. Um, and they're telling me that they're in a really bad spot. And I think the thing that I've seen that helps people the most is there's two factors. Number one, We don't get burnt out because of what we do. We get burnt out because we forgot the why behind it. So dentistry is really beautiful. You get to be paid to help people. Never forget the privilege it is to be able to serve other people. And when you make it about yourself and you start over obsessing about yourself, you lose fulfillment and purpose. So if you're in a burnout stage, focus on everything around you. If you feel less appreciated, give appreciation. Whatever you want more of in life, give it away first. If you work with a team of dedicated people, or even if they're mildly dedicated, but they've been there a long time, find new ways to appreciate them. If you're listening to this podcast on the way to work, go to work and tell everybody how much you appreciate them. Sally, you're my hygienist. You've been here for 4 years. I'm not good at this stuff, but I just want to let you know how much I appreciate the fact that you come here every day and help me with our patients. Diane, Johnny, do the same thing with all of them. So figure out a way, like a hack, to just go out and appreciate everybody. I think that's the first thing. And then the second part of this is that realize that everyone suffers. So in the mastermind at Bulletproof, one of the great things that happens is they see people like me and Pete, who are, finger quotes for those not listening, successful, got everything, they want it all. And they start realizing, oh shit, they have major drama. They have huge troubles. They have upset team members. They have marital problems. They have problems with their kids. So this realization that everybody is suffering, everybody's coping, no one has it all figured out. Anybody who tells you everything's going perfectly is bullshitting.
Right.
You know that, Kirk. You're an entrepreneur. You know some days are
100%.
really bad.
They are.
Some days you got a sword and a shield, and some days it's just a shield. You're getting your ass kicked.
Yeah.
So I think the realization that even the greats, and again, people think of me, as that, have major issues in their personal life and their professional life, is an unconscious permission for them to say, okay, it's not just me. And that band of brothers and sisters creates a community that lets them know it's okay as well.
So well said, my friend. That is awesome. Now, I want you to talk about what you're up to. On August 11th and 12th, you're going to be putting people together. What is it about? Where is it? And what are you going to do?
Okay, so speaking of community, so thank you for that. So August 11th and 12th at the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas. You ever heard of that place,
I
Kirk?
have. I've been there. It's amazing.
Yeah, so we're pretty pumped up about it. This is going to be our biggest Bulletproof Summit. It's our 7th annual, and it's going to be on 11th and 12th in Las Vegas. It's a 2-day, 16-hour CE event, but unlike anything else that I've seen, it's an entire team event. Because what usually happens is dentists go off and learn, and hygienists go off and learn, and office managers go off to their ADOM thing, and then everybody comes back at different times and nothing gets implemented. So what we decided to do is we made an event for the entire office. The dentists learn their portion, the hygienists learn theirs, the assistants and office manager go off and learn them, and then we come together for implementation, because knowledge is not power, execution is power. And that's the failing of all these other CE events that I've been a part of. So it's the Bulletproof Dental Summit. We do a 10 times money back guarantee, meaning if you don't collect more than 10 times what you spent over the following year, we'll give you your money completely back for the ticket price. That's how confident we are. But it's going to sell out. It does every year. We have a room block at the Wynn, which is like rooms for $200. Those rooms should be like $1,000. So I'm a big fan of rewards for your team. And there's lots of those types of trips where they go on booze cruises and stuff like that. But I'm a big believer in work hard, play hard. You can have fun in Vegas and you can learn a ton that will actually move the needle on your practice, guaranteed.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're not taking notes, don't worry. We're taking notes for you. You can flip up to the notes section in Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon. You're going to see a link to all Craig's stuff, the Bulletproof, the actual meeting itself, and you just click on it. It'll take you right there. I'm going to highly encourage you to check it out. I'm also going to highly encourage you, if you don't follow his podcast, you got to listen. It's really thought-provoking. You guys you make me laugh and you make me think every day. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I have
people think we're joking, by the way, when Peter and I, because we fight a lot. It's contentious, and people think it's an act, but it's real. We fight all the time. We're very different people, but I think it's good fodder and good sides of the coin.
Oh, you can tell it's very real. It's very real. Like there's no BS in there. Like you guys share some information. I'm like, wow, that was TMI. But that was good. It's very, very good. And
My
before
whole life is TMI.
absolutely. And before you write that book, And before you release the book, I'm going to make you come on here. That's called voluntolding, and you're going to share with us, what it's all about. I also, again, there's so many topics I want to cover with you. I actually want to have you back and talk about associate retention, some of the secrets or the lessons or the hard knocks that you've learned. I listened to a recent podcast, and you do this a lot, is scheduling out. And I love that whole concept that when you're in a PPO environment, like choosing how you utilize your time, because a lot of people are caught into this wheel and they can't see a way out of it. And you guys preach it over and over and over again. And if you ever listen to the Bulletproof podcast, it's one of the pillars of how do you create what you want is you have to start organizing your time and scheduling out. So we'll leave them, with a little curiosity. I want you to describe that whole concept. That's a show in itself. But
Yeah, for sure. I love those two topics. Those are definite shows for us.
Dude.
Absolutely. Make sure you write those down because I'm going to forget them in a minute.
I got
That's
them all
awesome.
down. You don't even know what I'm planning here. So
I love that
awesome.
one.
Cool, brother. Well, thank you for being on. I appreciate you. And if you're listening, make sure you follow those links. Check them out. I promise you will enjoy the conversation. You'll enjoy the content. And it'll just make you think better and believe more. So stick around, Craig, while we say goodbye to everybody else. But thank you guys for listening to the Best Practices Show.